ChemPraxis, and today we'll be going through IGCSE Chemistry Paper 2, Variant 2, May-June 2024. First, which gas has the slowest rate of diffusion? To determine this, we will have to find out what the MR of each of these gases are. I've listed the MR below each of the gases, and the gas with the highest MR will have the slowest rate of diffusion as it is the heaviest based off of the MR. Your answer should be D, which is carbon dioxide. Next, which statements about the position of the elements in the periodic table are correct? The first statement says that the elements in the same group have similar chemical properties. The second says that the elements in the same period have similar chemical properties. The third one states that the elements in the same group have the same number of electron shells, and the last one states that the elements in the same group have the same number of outer shell electrons. From all of these statements, we can determine that only 1 and 4 is correct, as they each respectively state that the elements in the same group have similar chemical properties and that they have the same number of outer shell electrons. For the third question, which statements about isotopes are correct? The answer is quite direct for this question, but we can determine that statement 2 and 4 are the only correct statements, as it states that the isotopes of the same element have the same chemical properties, and the isotopes of the same elements have the same electronic configuration. If you've studied the isotopes chapter, this is quite an easy answer to get. Next, which diagram shows the arrangement of the outer shell electrons in a molecule of water? The diagram shown in C is the correct arrangement of the outer shell electrons in a molecule of water. The fifth question states that the structures of 3 substances are shown. Which substances are hard and have a high melting point? The first structure is graphite, followed by diamond, and then silicon dioxide. The first structure, which is graphite, is not hard. Hence, the answer will be 2 and 3 only. Diamond is extremely hard and has an extremely high melting point. Silicon dioxide is also the same. Question 6 gives information on 4 substances W, X, Y, and Z. W, X, Y, and Z are graphite, polyethylene, sodium chloride, and silicon 4 oxide. Keep in mind that they are not in that order, so we will have to determine what W, X, Y, and Z are, respectively. From the information given, we can determine that W is silicon 4 oxide, as it has a high melting point and does not conduct electricity when in solid form. X is graphite, as it conducts electricity when solid. Y is polyethylene, as it has a low melting point. And Z is sodium chloride, as it conducts electricity when it's molten. For question 7, the structure of glycine is shown. Which row is correct? From the structure given, we can determine that B should be your answer. Next, the incomplete equation for photosynthesis is shown. Compound P is a product of the reaction. Which row describes the values of W, X, and Y and gives the empirical formula of compound P? Your answer should be A, wherein the values of W, X, and Y are all the same, and the empirical formula of compound P is CH2O. Next, the concentration and volume of an aqueous alkali are known. Which additional information is required to calculate the number of moles of acid needed to neutralize the aqueous alkali? The equation for the acid-alkali reaction is required in order to calculate the number of moles of acid needed to neutralize the aqueous alkali. Hence, your answer should be B. For question 10, which statement about electrolysis is correct? From the list of statements given, we can deduce that the only correct answer for this is B, wherein electrons move in the external circuit towards the cathode. Aqueous copper 2 sulfate is electrolyzed using copper electrodes. What is the half equation for the reaction at the cathode? Reduction of copper 2 occurs at the cathode, and hence the half equation should be D. Question 12 gives 3 statements about activation energy. Which of the statements are correct? From the list of statements given, we can determine that only 1 and 3 are correct in this case, making your answer C. Next, a student adds excess magnesium ribbon to 10 cm cube of 0.5 mol per dm cube of sulfuric acid. The hydrogen gas produced is collected and its total volume is measured every 10 seconds. They repeat the experiment, but this time with lesser sulfuric acid that is also mixed with water, and the mass of the magnesium ribbon used will stay the same. Which line on the graph shows the results of the second experiment? With the sulfuric acid being diluted and being in lower volume, the volume of hydrogen gas that will be collected will be lesser. Hence, your answer will be D. Your answer is specifically D instead of C because the volume of sulfuric acid used is decreased by half and is added into water as well. For question 14, the equation represents the reversible reaction between ethene and steam. Which row describes the conditions that produce the greatest yield of ethanol? To achieve the greatest yield of ethanol, the pressure will need to be high and the temperature should be low. Therefore, your answer should be C. Question 15 asks you to identify the row in which the pressure and the catalyst used for the conversion of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide in the contact process. This question is rather direct, with the atmospheric pressure being at 2 and the catalyst being vanadium 5 oxide, making your answer B. Question 16 asks which equation represents a redox reaction. A redox reaction is when both oxidation and reduction occurs. The only equation in which this happens is the equation on C. The iron undergoes oxidation and the hydrogen undergoes reduction. In question 17, the equation for the reaction between aluminium and copper 2 oxide is shown. Which statements about this equation are correct? The statements 3 and 4 are the correct statements, as the oxidation number of the copper in the reactant is indeed +2 and the oxidation number in the copper product itself is 0. Hence, your answer will be C. Question 18 asks what the color of thymophthalate in dilute hydrochloric acid is. Thymophthalate will appear colorless as dilute hydrochloric acid, is an acid. Thymophthalate only shows a blue color when it is in an alkali. Next, two acids P and Q with the same concentration and volume are reacted separately with the same mass of magnesium ribbon. The reactions produce the same total volume of hydrogen gas, but acid Q reacts much more slowly than acid P. Which explanation for the difference between P and Q is correct? Acid Q is partially dissociated and acid P is fully dissociated, as acid P reacts faster than acid Q despite producing the same total amount of hydrogen gas. Hence, your answer for question 19 will be C. Question 20 asks which process is not used in the preparation of an insoluble salt. We do not use crystallization when preparing an insoluble salt, and therefore your answer will be C. Next, lithium and potassium are metals in group 1 of the periodic table. Lithium has a melting point of 181 degrees Celsius and a density of 0.53 grams per cm cube. Which row describes the melting point and density of potassium? As you go down the metals of group 1, reactivity increases, and when reactivity increases, the force of attraction decreases, hence the melting point will be lower as you go down, and the density will be higher. This means that B will be the correct answer for question 21. Question 22 asks which statements about the transition elements is correct. Statements 2 and 3 are correct in this case. These statements say that the transition elements form ions with variable oxidation numbers and has a high melting point. If you study the chapter on transition elements, this is quite a direct question as well. Next, which statements describe the elements in group 8 of the periodic table? 1 and 3 describes the group 8 elements, and hence your answer will be A. Question 24 shows 4 metals Q, R, S, and T, which are each added to separate samples of water, steam, and dilute hydrochloric acid. The results are shown. Which statements are correct? We are given 4 statements in which the first one states that R is the least reactive metal, the second one states that T could be potassium, and the third one states that S is more reactive than Q and R, and the fourth one states that metals generally react faster with steam than they react with water. From this list of statements, statements 1, 2, and 4 are the only correct ones. S is not more reactive based on what we can observe from the results given, and therefore your answer should be A. Metal X acts as a sacrificial metal to prevent iron from corroding. Metal X does not act as a sacrificial metal to prevent aluminium from corroding. What is Metal X? Metal X is zinc, as zinc is used to galvanize iron, which prevents the iron from rusting. However, zinc will not act as a sacrificial metal for aluminium, as aluminium is much more reactive than zinc. Hence, your answer should be D. Question 26 asks which equation represents the reduction of a compound found in hematite in the blast furnace. Your answer should be D. Question 27 asks which statements about the treatment of domestic water supplies are correct. From the list of statements shown, 1 and 3 are the correct statements, and therefore your answer will be A. Statements 1 and 3 states that filtration is used to remove insoluble substances from the water, and carbon is used to remove taste and odors from the water. For question 28, it asks which statement about water is correct. To test for the presence of water, we use anhydrous copper 2 sulfate. Anhydrous copper 2 sulfate turns from white to blue when it touches water, and therefore your answer will be B. Question 29 states that the copper nickel is used to make coins. The arrangement of atoms in copper nickel is shown below. Which kind of substance is copper nickel? Based on the arrangement seen in the atoms of copper nickel, we can see that it resembles the structure of alloys. And therefore, we will pick alloy for our answer, which is A. Next, which physical properties are typical of all metals? All metals have good heat conductivity as well as malleability, therefore your answer will be B. Which oxide is used to neutralize acidic gases in flue gas desulfurization? Calcium oxide is the only oxide listed here that is used to neutralize acidic gases in flue gas desulfurization. Next, some information about 3 gases P, Q, and R is listed. What is gas R? Gas P forms when magnesium reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid. From this, we can determine that gas P is hydrogen. Gas Q makes up 78% of the air. Nitrogen makes up 78% of the air. Clean air, meaning gas Q is nitrogen. Gas R is formed when gas P reacts with gas Q. When hydrogen reacts with nitrogen, it forms ammonia. So gas R is ammonia gas. Question 33 asks which formula represents an alkene. The only formula that represents an alkene in this list of formulas is C2H4, and therefore your answer will be B. The structures of 2 compounds used to make an ester are shown. What is the name of the ester? From the compounds shown, we can determine that the ester is ethyl propanoate, and therefore your answer will be A. In question 35, it asks which statement about a homologous series is correct. From the list of statements given, all members have the same general formula is the only correct statement, and therefore your answer will be A. Question 36 asks which statements about aqueous ethanoic acid are correct. Statements 1 and 4 are the correct ones, as it says that it contains the functional group COOH and it has a pH lower than pH 7. Therefore, your answer will be C. Next, alkenes react with steam in an addition reaction. Some alkenes produce only 1 alcohol product, and some alkenes produce 2 different alcohol products. Some alkenes produce 2 different alcohols, which are structural isomers. Which row gives the number of alcohol isomers formed when ethene reacts with steam and when propene reacts with steam? The second row is the correct row in which the number of alcohol isomers formed when ethene reacts with steam is 1, and when propene reacts with steam, it's 2. Hence, your answer will be B. For question 38, it asks what is an advantage of manufacturing ethanol by fermentation rather than by the addition of steam to ethene. Fermentation uses renewable raw materials, whereas the addition of steam to ethene does not. Question 39 shows the structure of a polymer. Which structure represents the monomer of this polymer? Based off of the structure, we can simply isolate the polymer structure, allowing us to determine that the answer should be C. And lastly, which piece of apparatus is used to measure 24.5 cm3 of gas produced during a reaction? You would use a measuring cylinder to measure the gas produced, and therefore your answer will be C.